Hi, everybody. It's Dan Cerrucci here again. It's a little bit after 8, but I said we would be here at 8 o'clock. We had a bit of time getting set up. I'm here with Josh Twyford. And Josh, how are you tonight?
I'm doing all right. Just got done work a little bit ago. Just got home, relaxing now. So, how about yourself?
Good. Let me check and make sure that we are on Facebook and Twitter. I always do that at the very beginning just to make sure everything's working. And let's see. Oh, there we are on Facebook. And let me check over here on Twitter and do the same thing. Let's see. And there we are on Twitter. So we're all set. We're here. And I'm talking to Josh Twyford, who is um, a member of the Gloucester City Republican Club Executive Committee. I'm still calling you, Josh, a young Republican. Um, do you still qualify as a young Republican?
A few more years. I'm getting up there
Pardon
though.
me?
I believe it goes to 40, so I got 8 years, I guess.
Okay. Uh, and you've been involved in the Camden County Republican Party. Josh, this is one of the bluest counties in the state. I got to figure like it's in the top three bluest counties in the state.
Yeah,
It's a challenge, isn't it, to be a
yeah,
Republican in Camden County?
without a doubt. And that doesn't. You didn't even mention that. The county is controlled by one of the strongest political bosses in the nation. On top of that, so makes it pretty difficult.
And it doesn't seem to matter that this political boss who has held a grip on the county and on much of South Jersey has been indicted. That doesn't seem to matter.
Well, I don't really think anybody believes that he's going to get convicted. I mean, it's very obvious by the fact that Democrats have not come out against him, except for the most progressive of them. Um, he sat in the front row of his own indictment and stared the attorney general down. It just goes to show that he does not feel he'll ever be held accountable for anything. And obviously, other people believe that too, because, as I said, nobody's really came out against him. Even the governor is quiet.
And if we're to believe newspaper accounts, yeah, as you just said, the governor, the attorney general sort of went off on his own as a
Yeah.
sort of lone ranger, and the governor wasn't necessarily behind this indictment or didn't necessarily, well, certainly didn't, he didn't have to sign off on it, but
He definitely hasn't vocally came out and supported it. So his lack of words speak for themselves.
and there's been, for the most part, a deafening, I don't know if that's the way to put it, an overwhelming silence on the part of Democrats.
Yes.
And even in the media, Josh, it hasn't really, I mean, like it was sort of maybe a 24, 48-hour story.
Yeah. It wasn't really picked up nationally. Just really political insider outlets picked it up, and then you had a few local stations run a story about it, and that was that. In a case where allegedly $1.1 billion in state tax credits were allocated to the Norcross family and their friends, uh, you would think that that would be much larger news, and that people would be demanding answers. But it seems that people are more afraid about what happens when they demand those answers than actually seeing justice.
Um, what what why did you get involved in politics in the first place, Josh?
Well, I had an issue with some things that were going on in my house, and I had a very bad experience with the public workers in my town, and that spurred me to figure out why that was the case. And I started investigating, and I saw, the rampant nepotism in my town, that everybody that works for the city knows somebody or their family. And, we have an issue right now in town where they have seasonal jobs to cut grass, and the kids that are doing it, both are they're kids of high paid salaried workers within the city. So Gloucester City does not have the highest household income compared to most of Camden County. So you would think that we would want to be giving those jobs to people that are struggling, to their kids, so that they can support the households in those towns. But instead,
Mhm.
the jobs are advertised in a 1 inch by 1 inch square in a newspaper for a week, and then it goes to whoever they want to give it to. So things like that I noticed really bothered me. And then when I went to go vote, I didn't see anybody to vote for besides Democrats. So I called up the then chairman, Tom Crone. I asked him, I said, why don't I have anybody to vote for? And he told me that I was more than welcome to start a committee and put people on the ballot. So that's what I did. And ever since, I've had a full committee and a full slate of candidates running in opposition to the Democrats for the first time in 25 years in Gloucester City.
And
Every year.
how long ago was that you got involved, Josh?
I started the committee in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And so far,
I
we've
will
ran three
tell you,
races.
in 2021, so that's only like 3 years ago.
3.5. Well, it was the very beginning of 2021. Actually, the committee was started in 2021. I got involved with Camden County GOP in 2020. But the actual official formation of the committee was January 2021.
Okay. That is the Republic. Will you say you're talking about the Republican Committee of Gloucester City?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So, folks, I want to tell you, just for background, and there are some people watching this now. By the way, this is going to be on my website. It'll be up there permanently. It'll be on my YouTube channel. I'm going to feature it on my Facebook page and Twitter page. Josh, you can go ahead and um, I've got to put it on public, but you can go ahead and share it from your Facebook page as well. That reminds me, I ought to go on there and put it on public, so that's shareable. Um, mm, 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 mm. Well, it's not allowing me. I don't think it's allowing me yet to edit the audience.
You might have to wait until we're finished up. There's no rush there, Dan.
Okay, fine. So let me just say, as a matter of background for people that are watching, that I was on. There we go. Wait, just a second. I think I know what I have to do now. Edit audience, public. There we go. You can now share that from Facebook. Let me say, for people that are watching and for people that will be watching, okay, for people that are watching, let me give you some context as to where Gloucester City. You may be watching from other parts of the state or from somewhere else. Gloucester City lies just south of the city of Camden along the Delaware River. Camden, New Jersey, is one of the poorest and most distressed cities in America. It's often been cited as having one of the highest crime rates. Um, it's been in this sorry state for a long, long time now, and Democrats have been in control of the city of Camden for more than 70 years.
Yes.
Okay. Just to give you some context, Camden at one time had a population of over 100,000 people. Now, I'm guessing that it's around maybe 60,000. Um,
I'd have to look to get the exact number, but it's not anywhere near 100,000 anymore.
it is certainly. Um, I think it's fewer people that are than where I'm sitting right now in Cherry Hill, which is
Mhm.
one of the most successful, could be the most successful and prosperous community in the county. It certainly is the economic hub of this area of South Jersey.
It's amazing what you can do when you have a good tax base.
Yeah, there you are. And Cherry Hill, of course, has saw phenomenal growth over the last 60 years, okay,
Hmm.
as a thriving suburban community. Gloucester City is um, has always been a working class town, right, Josh?
Yes, from the very beginning.
Um, and of course, as industry left, towns like Gloucester City suffered.
Yes, and it's a direct result of policies of Democrats like Bill Clinton that would let China into the World Trade Organization, and unfortunately, companies that saw profit margins as more important than the success of the American public, and they took advantage of the new entry of China into the World Trade Organization and shipped the jobs over there. It's not just China; it's places like Bangladesh, Vietnam. I mean, anywhere where cheap labor can be found is where you'll find these corporations, and that was enabled by the laws that were put on the books. And it's not just Democrats that have done it. I mean, you've had Republicans that have signed on to those bills as well. The issue here is just money in politics, and there's corporations lobbying those people to get the laws and regulations that they want, so they can get the cheap labor. And with the increasing amount of middle class citizens in those countries, especially China, now they're looking for cheaper labor in other places, and that's why we have the illegal immigration that's coming here, because they can get cheap labor and they also don't have to pay shipping costs. So it's a
This, of
win-win.
course, yeah, this, of course, is a point that President Trump made very effectively during the debate. Uh,
Yes.
but also, going back to NAFTA,
Hmm.
that took so many jobs away. And
Yep.
I remember Ross Perot in the three-way debate with George H.W. Bush and Clinton when he
Hmm.
said, "That sound you hear is the sound of NAFTA sucking jobs out of America, the sucking sound of jobs going to Mexico and
Hmm.
other places under the North American Free Trade Agreement." And of
Correct.
course, when President Trump came in, he eliminated a lot of the elements of NAFTA. He
Yes.
was he was not a fan of it, not a fan of it. Now, going back to 2016, Josh,
Hmm.
Trump did pretty good in Gloucester, huh?
Yeah, he only lost by about 10 votes in 2016. He did well. 2020, he was hurt by, I believe, COVID and questionable practices of mailing ballots to every single person in the state. And it doesn't have to be nefarious things that were happening. It's as simple as a mother of four making sure that all of her kids sign the ballot, because she would never get them out to the voting booth, but she can get them to sign the piece of paper. So, um, and not that I don't think we should have more people participating in the process, but I think low information voters are not beneficial to the process. And if you can't get someone that's motivated enough to go out on election day, and you need to get a ballot at home for them, then maybe if they're not that interested, they shouldn't be putting their opinion into something that they're not that educated on, right?
I also think in 2020, the change in the method of voting confused a lot of people. In other words, it was the first time that we had this mass mail in voting. It was the first time in New Jersey, I believe, that we had early voting.
Yeah.
And I think the change, and it was an abrupt change, it was a very quick change. And it was all linked to COVID, of course.
Yes.
The Democrats used COVID to carry out a lot of the changes that they wanted in the
Never let
election
a good
process.
crisis go to waste, Dan.
Never let a good crisis go to waste, right? That was the saying of one of Clinton's chief advisors.
Correct.
I think it was Obama's chief advisors. Never let a good crisis go to waste.
It was a
It didn't
Democrat
matter.
advisor.
It was the Clintons made effective use of crises too. But I believe that Trump carried Gloucester City in 2016.
No, he just short. He did carry Brooklawn and Mount Ephraim though.
He carried Brooklawn and Mount Ephraim.
Yeah, just shy of winning in Gloucester City. I believe it was in between 10 to 20 votes short.
That is still phenomenal, considering that Gloucester City has always been a Democrat stronghold. You see, in a working class town, and a Democrat stronghold, right?
Yeah, but it hasn't always necessarily been a Democrat stronghold for federal elections. More locally, because of people like George Norcross who have a stranglehold on these people because of things like patronage jobs and others, whether it be unions, patronage jobs, or something like that. They're beholden to George Norcross, and if George doesn't win, whatever way that they're making money may be in jeopardy, and he makes sure they know that. So
it's a big union town.
Yeah, and I listen. I think workers should always have the right to collectively bargain. It's not. It's just that when that becomes political to the point where it gives people like George as much power as they have, we have to step back and think: is that the type of system that we should have in America, right? When you have people tell you that they're a Republican but they have to register Democrat because of their job, that's a problem, and I hear it all the time. So, I mean,
You run
you want
into
to.
that all the time.
Yeah, and it's plain and simple intimidation.
And you're right there on the ground. You've done a lot of field work for the
Correct.
Republican Party.
Yes.
So you're on the ground, you're talking to these people. You grew up there, Josh?
No, I grew up in Pittman, New Jersey. I graduated from Cherry Hill East, and I moved to Gloucester in about 2011.
So why did you move there in the first place, Josh?
My father bought a house here in Gloucester City to downsize, and at the time there was low taxes in Gloucester. Since 2011, they've more than doubled. But it was a smaller house for my father. I had moved out, and then when he retired, he decided to move down south. So I purchased a home. From him.
Okay, so and you've made this your home.
Yes. At the time, I worked in Philadelphia, North Philadelphia. It was a quick, 5 to 10 minute commute, even in rush hour, from Gloucester City. So it's a perfect location. Even working where I work now in West Twyford, it's still perfect because 295 is right there, 42 is right there. I mean, Gloucester City is a gem when it comes to location. During COVID, a lot of people figured that out when they realized that there was a lot of houses at reasonable prices in Gloucester City, and we saw. So if you see since COVID, the medium household income of Gloucester City has risen quite significantly since COVID because the housing crunch made some upper middle class people reconsider where they would want to live, right? So because of affordability issues and things like that. So, and Gloucester City is a great place to live. So don't get me wrong on that side, but it was never an upper middle class town. You never had upper middle class people looking at houses in Gloucester City.
No, but it's there are a lot of nice homes there, and
beautiful architecture, yes,
and a lot of nice neighborhoods,
mm-hmm.
and the main parts of the main street are still, shall we say, vibrant and very much intact.
Yes.
So there's a real. I have to say too, there's a real sense of community. There's a real sense of community, and a real sense of pride and tradition in the town.
Yes.
So now, what made you decide that we found out you were dissatisfied with the situation there
Mhm.
with the Democrats, um, and you went. This is a situation where a citizen was wondering where to turn. He found out about the county organization, came the county Republican Party.
Mhm.
He contacted the chairman and simply became involved because and here's the way that I got to know Josh. I was at an event. He was there. I like to talk to young people because it's just more interesting, and I like to see what they're interested in and what they're passionate about. And we got to talking, and the thing that impressed me about Josh, and I've told you this, Josh, was your passion and enthusiasm and your commitment, and that you were willing to invest this kind of energy in in your effort, in your conviction.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah, I thoroughly believe that, the people of Southern New Jersey and most of New Jersey are being taken advantage of by elected officials, and that our communities could be even better than they are now if money was allocated properly and people weren't doing pay to play across the state and making sure they scratch each other's backs before anything gets done. The taxpayers are and residents are the last people on their minds when they make decisions across the state.
what do you think is the essence of President Trump's appeal, particularly to working people? And you're in touch with a lot of working people, Josh. What is the essence of his appeal?
Jobs and economy. It's that simple. I mean, we had from 2016 to 2020, I was much more better off financially. Um, and people felt that, gas was cheaper. Uh, Everything was cheaper, honestly. Interest rates were 1.5 to 2%. And honestly, we can't blame that entirely on Joe Biden because, Trump did sign a lot of those stimulus bills. It would have been political suicide for him to not sign those stimulus bills.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, he signed them. So he has to take some of the blame there. But inflation still before Biden took office, it was nowhere close to where it is now. Um, we keep on borrowing more and more money and making our grandchildren and our great grandchildren pay for our mistakes. And I just don't see an end. The money printer just keeps flowing.
And I mean, in fairness, that has happened under administrations of both parties.
Yes,
You're running up
both
a
parties
debt.
are horrible at maintaining a good budget. We haven't seen a good budget since Ronald Reagan. Um, H.W. Bush and George Bush were just as happy to spend money on foreign wars and everything else. So
But President Trump did address the foreign wars in the debate.
he did.
And it seems like he wants to disengage us, if he can, in through diplomacy or whatever means, through strength, certainly through
He's
this
just right.
military strength.
Mhm.
This seems to be, you know, uh, an aim of his, where it was not really enunciated by um,
No,
President Biden.
it
What
was
did you think
ignored
of
by
the
the
debate?
press.
What did
I
you
mean,
think of the debate, Josh? What's your view
the
on that?
debate.
Did you watch it?
I mean, I think that none of it was what the American people really wanted to hear. I mean, I just felt bad for Joe Biden. I mean, at that point, it's just it's elder abuse. I mean, the guy. I mean, I've had family with dementia, and it's very obvious what's going on, and it's embarrassing, honestly, to trot someone out like that, and it's not fair to him. But I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not like he's a great guy. He's the last person I'd defend. But I mean, that's just sad. You can't do that to someone. I think that Trump answered a lot of questions in a good way, but I think he could have elaborated a lot more. But it's classic Trump. gross exaggerations of things. It's just how he speaks, and some people like it, some people don't. Because everything is the best ever, you know. So, but I mean, he wasn't wrong on the things that he stated. He did have a great economy. You know, he did have a great job market for us. For the first time in a long time, employees had leverage against companies to ask for raises because we didn't have an oversupply of labor like we have now. People don't realize that, you know, that illegal immigration hurts the working class the worst, because when you increase the supply of labor to that extent, why would when you can pick from anybody, you have no leverage to say, hey, well, you can't get someone, so give me 50 cents, give me $1. They'll say, get out, I want to hire the guy that's waiting in line. So for the first time, workers had leverage. For the first time, workers saw an increase in pay. For the first time in my working life, I graduated high school in 2010, and I went right into the workforce, and I was working in a glass factory on rotating shifts for $7.25 an hour, in a job that in the 1990s paid $20 an hour. And I was just lucky to find a job in 2011 at that point. So nobody complained. And, you know, eventually I worked my way up, but I never saw the types of increases, whether it be raises or money that was being offered for new positions, that I did under Trump. And that's just someone who's worked in manufacturing my whole life.
You worked in manufacturing your whole life,
Correct.
and you went right into the workforce right out of high school.
Yeah, I went right into manufacturing. My dad was born in 1949. He's got the old school mentality. You just go in there and start working, and if you work harder than everyone else, you'll be rewarded for it. Unfortunately, it doesn't exactly work that way, like it used to. You have to kind of hop around jobs to get the money you deserve. I've worked really hard at places just to get 2 or 3%, and then I could apply somewhere else and get 15 to 20%. Right? Loyalty is not rewarded as it used to be, and the only way to really make money is to hop jobs. Because if I was at the first place I worked at, I'd probably be lucky to be making 45 grand, because they would have just gave me 20 cents a year to keep me happy. So there's no, you don't, the way I always say it is, they're not giving out gold watches anymore.
You're exactly right, Josh. What you're hearing, folks, is a real firsthand, true life testament here of what the situation is in America today, the deterioration of manufacturing and working class jobs, the plight of a working class community, the appeal of President Trump and his policies to young people who may not have gone directly from high school into higher education. Okay. You did get some further education, Josh?
Yeah, at a certain point, I kind of maxed out the earnings that I would get in manufacturing. So at 26, I decided to go to college, and I went to school part time on my associate's degree. So it probably took me about 5 years to get that 2-year degree by doing a couple classes a semester. But I graduated in 2020 with an associate's in the arts and sciences, which is just a generalized science degree, which I used to get myself onto the more pink collar side of manufacturing in quality control and other laboratory environments, but manufacturing nonetheless.
Wonderful. Wonderful that you were able to do that, and you worked very hard and achieved that. This was another thing that impressed me about this guy as I was chatting with him. Okay. And I found all of this fascinating. And oh, Josh, we had some squabble in the Republican Party of Camden County that reached a conclusion last night. There was a contest for the chairmanship or the chair post of the Republican Party of Camden County, which we've already said is a distinctly minority party. And I asked you the question, Josh, why are Republicans, why do they fight like this in New Jersey, and particularly in South Jersey, where they are a distinct minority? Why the hell are they fighting one another? And you had an incredible answer for me, Josh. What was the answer?
Well, it really comes down to there's nothing to keep people loyal. The Democrats use patronage jobs and positions and things like that to make sure people do what they say. And in the Republican Party, there's nothing to hand out. So it's you don't have any control. So and when you're in a minority position like we talked about, facing one of the strongest political coalitions in probably in the history of the country, aka George Norcross, it's very easy to rally support against the leader that that isn't winning, right? So we have our strongholds across Camden County where we have some red areas. We have some wards in Winslow. We have Waterford Township, some other areas like Berlin and Berlin Township, but unfortunately it's independent instead of Republican. But beyond that, it's really hard to win. So it's really easy to point the finger at who's not doing what. But when you got $100,000 against $10 million, it's not a competition. And a lot of the people that criticize from the sidelines, that don't knock doors, that don't make phone calls, that don't send out text messages, that don't raise money, they always seem to come out once every 2 years to make their voice heard. But they never are there to help further the agenda of the committee in the 2 years between.
So these fights break out because there's no when you're not winning, there's no rewards, there's no patronage that's coming from it.
Yeah.
The
There's
party,
nothing to hold someone to a standard.
is,
Yeah.
More often than not, in fact, let's say 80% of the time, or in 80% of the communities, loses. And what Joshua explained it to me, and it made a lot of sense, was people don't really work very hard. They spend a lot of time bitching. They become frustrated, and they start fighting with one another.
Yeah. Yep. And
that,
all that energy could be spent knocking.
A cycle, a vicious cycle that is self-defeating, defeat on top of defeat.
And listen, it would happen with Democrats too. But the problem, like you said, they have the control. I mean, the people. There's not such thing as an empty committee seat on the Democrat side. You're not going to stack an empty town with people that have never done anything before. If you're a Democrat, you're going to be waiting in line to get a committee seat for 5 years if you're a Democrat in Camden County, right? So it's very easy to find people to stack a committee with and to do what you say, but they're going to be in that room for that vote, and you're not going to see them again after that. And so it's not a huge accomplishment to oust the chair in a place like Camden County. But I just wish that energy was somehow focused at coming together and compromising and figuring out how we can get people to win. But none of these people that I saw yesterday were anywhere to be found for the last at least 2 years.
And Josh is talking about the people that came out to vote as members of the Camden County Republican Committee, some of whom were just appointed. They weren't elected, they were appointed to those positions within the last couple of weeks, specifically so that they could come out and vote for one person or another in this contest. Whereas on the Democratic side, the Democrats have all these jobs and patronage and success to offer to people. There's actually a competition to be part of the Democratic County Committee. The county committee has representatives from every town in the county. The bigger towns have more representatives, the smaller towns have fewer. And the Democrats have the carrots to offer,
Yep.
which is the rewards of success, the spoils of victory. They have the spoils of victory to offer to their troops. Therefore, they are also able to use the stick. They have the carrots, they can use the stick, and they can enforce discipline. The
Yeah,
Republicans
and this is
have
basic politics
for
that
the stick.
this is basic politics to anyone who's read a book on it, right? It's how the game goes. It's unfortunate, but it's how it works. So until Republicans see some type of gain and control across the county, you're going to see the same type of infighting. I mean, this isn't exclusive to Camden County. You can find it in any state with any county in any state with a Democrat majority. And you can, if you go down south or the other parts of the country that are controlled by Republicans, the Democrat committees are in disarray, and they're always infighting. It's just this. A natural wave of order, if you will. It happens everywhere, and we just got to try to get a handle on it and make sure that everybody wants to work together. I mean, over the last 3 years, there's arguably nobody in Camden County that's put in more work on the ground than myself to try to get Republicans elected in this county. But when leadership changed, I wasn't even so much as approached or given a phone call to ask if what was going to happen with me, right? As a field director, nobody asked me if, hey, do you want to help or anything like that. I was completely ignored. And so was everyone else who's put the work in for the last 3 years, right? So we'll see what happens, but I know for a fact that the people that are in those positions now didn't do anything to help further the agenda of the committee. Now, whether that was because they didn't like leadership and they didn't want to help the committee is something that, to be determined. I don't know. I haven't asked them, but we'll see over the next 2 years if those people suddenly decide they want to put the work in to get the seats won. And so,
well, it seems to me that the new chair of the party, it is incumbent upon her and her allies that hold the position of officers of the Camden County Republican Party to contact the people that were working for those that were in charge and welcome them on board to put the party together and bring as many people as possible. They ought to be talking to people like you, it seems to me. You say you haven't been contacted so far.
No, I haven't so much as a phone call or nothing. But it wasn't unexpected. I mean, there's a lot of egos involved in here. I didn't support the chair, and I'm sure that people are upset about that. And, they're more concerned about their personal feelings than the success of the Republican Party. That's just the way it goes sometimes.
And we see this at the statewide level too. We have New Jersey hasn't elected a statewide Republican since Chris Christie, and that was in 2009 and 2013. Okay, and then that was it. We haven't had a Republican senator, I think it's in more than 50 years. Now we have a senatorial election coming up.
The polls look very good for Curtis. So I'm excited.
We're all excited about Curtis. We're all excited about Curtis Bishaw.
He's a great guy.
He's an amazing person, a successful businessman, a very likable person, a very genuine person. But he faced a primary battle. He faced the primary battle, and the Republicans fought over, who would be the Senate candidate. And next year, there's 3 or 4 people running for governor. For the Republicans are going to be fighting over who should be their gubernatorial candidate.
Well, everybody thinks they can do a better job, Dan, until it's time for them to do the job.
But I say this, Josh, when you are fighting like this and you are in the minority and you've been in the minority and you're in a blue state, you are fighting over who gets the right to lose. More often than not, you're fighting over who gets the right to lose. Think of how dumb that is.
It's the same problem that the state GOP has, right? They want to build from the top up, right? They want to be in control. They want to be the fancy guy with the ego, with the picture, talking about how amazing they are. But nobody wants to go down into the local committees and put the work in to build them. And we wonder why we can't win statewide elections when we have no platform to stand on. We're working from the top of the pyramid down. It's not possible. You need to have a platform to work off of. You have to have these municipalities filled with committee seats with full slates, and you have to have people that you can rely on to go out and put in the time to get things done. You can't run a state campaign and go into a county and say, oh, well, I have 5 people that I can have knock doors for me in this county because I've been worried about a gubernatorial primary instead of building across the state. Because it's all about, ooh, look at me, look at what I've done. And it's not about building for success.
There it is. And, it was President Reagan who said, there's no limit to what you can accomplish if you're not concerned with who gets the credit for it. But what we see time and again is people concerned with who gets the credit for it. But think about this. If you don't win elections, you can't accomplish anything.
Correct.
And so
but you can raise a lot of money to go to fancy dinners with your friends, though.
They're going to fight over is fighting over why you lost. I'm sorry, Josh.
No, I said that. I mean, they can raise a lot of money to have fancy dinner with their friends, though. They can go to their cocktail parties and talk about how amazing they are, and then lose in November. But because that's about all they do.
How do you tell if a person is authentic, Josh?
Through their actions, not their words. Anybody can tell you anything, and they can sell you a bill of goods, but what have they done lately? And this isn't to anyone specifically, it's in general. In the context of politics, when I talk to someone, and they tell me about the things that they've done, I want to see the accomplishments. What have you built? Not hey, I ran for this 4 times. What committees did you build? Did you go into towns and did you make sure that you got the clubs built to the point where we can rely on these people for grassroots effort when it does come time to run these gubernatorial campaigns, or when it does come time to run these Senate campaigns? And I'm not saying that we should leave these posts open, but why are we fighting over who gets to be the nominee of governor when we have no infrastructure to support that nominee at the end of the day?
So back to Camden County. Now, there are counties in New Jersey where the Republicans are successful, and they do have an army on the ground, and they're usually successful. Monmouth County, Ocean County,
yep.
All right, and some other counties in the northwest corner of the state.
Cumberland County's been doing a great job as well.
Cumberland County, Cape May County,
Salem and Gloucester.
What I call South Jersey, or the Jersey Shore area, and the Jersey Bay area. The bottom portion of the state is building a strong and vibrant Republican army.
Yes.
They are building an army down there, and it's very exciting. It's very exciting to see. Now, that many years ago, maybe not so many years ago, really, was a Republican area, and it's becoming a really strong Republican area once again. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the same population, okay, that some of these other counties do in the northern part of the state that are solidly Democratic. But what we're seeing in the southernmost part of the state is very, very exciting. And of course, President Trump was there
Yep.
now twice in Wildwood
I was
holding.
sitting right behind him.
You were there?
Yeah. Yeah. I was there with the young Republicans. We all had made a trip down there. So
Uh-huh.
some of our group also volunteered for to help set up the speech itself. So the area
Wow.
and everything like that. So yeah, we were.
What was it
We,
like that day? Tell us about it.
there's a lot of people. Um, I wish it didn't start 4 hours before Trump came out because I had a healthy amount of sunburn by the time he got out there to speak. But besides that, it was a fun time. I mean, there's no violence. Didn't see any counter protesters. I mean, it was a good time all around. Everybody was being nice to each other, helping each other out, and it's definitely not what the news tells you about a rally. That's for sure.
Well, anybody who's been to a Trump rally knows it's a very, very special experience. And you meet so many people. I call them salt of the earth people. Uh, these are and in many cases, they are the forgotten people, okay, that President Trump gave voice to. These are many cases, as you probably know, Josh. These are people that before President Trump hadn't voted. They had not voted. They gave up. They had
Yep.
given up. They didn't care.
And that's why
No,
the polls were wrong, Dan, because if you look at a poll, what do they always say? Of likely voters. Well, the people that voted weren't people that got polled. So that's why the polls were wrong. So you can't always listen to polls because not everybody that was a likely voter 4 years ago is going to be a likely voter today.
oh, some of the Biden voters are disenchanted, may not
Yeah.
even vote or may vote for third party. We do know that the Trump voters seem to be very, very highly motivated this time, very highly motivated. And Trump
And
has certainly built an army. This is a movement. Go ahead, Josh.
well, and I just wanted to mention that I've been looking at the updating the numbers from the registrations going into 2024, and our 18 to 25 demographic in a lot of towns we have more Republican registrations than Democrat in the 18 to 25 demographic, uh,
Wow.
especially on the lower end of that where we're at 18, 19, 20. So I mean, younger people, they know they're fed up, and if we can. Unfortunately, Gen Z isn't as large of a generation as the Boomer generation or the Millennial generation. But if we can rally those people to vote, that's going to be the difference because 18 to 22 they weren't voting 4 years ago. They're not included in those polls. They're not the likely voters that they're going to be polling. But in a place like New Jersey, if you have a registration edge with 18 to 25s, what do you think that looks like in swing states?
And if you're
It's
doing
yeah,
a phone poll of these young voters or trying to reach them that way, they don't talk on the phone. They
you're better
don't
off
talk.
sending the text poll.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, if you contact them, you're going to have to contact them by text or through social media or some other way, because
correct.
as
Yeah.
a general rule, they don't have telephone conversations. This is something that I grew up with. I mean, that's the first, in many cases now, it's still the first thing I think of. And then I have to remind myself, no, you have to text.
Mhm.
But it's fascinating. You think that Trump will carry Gloucester City this time, Josh?
Yes, I do. I think he'll carry a significant portion of the Pike towns from Gloucester City on down to Gloucester Township.
You think he's going to take Gloucester Township as well?
I don't think he's going to take it, but I think he's going to do a lot better than he did last time. But who knows? I mean, people are upset, and if we can rally that 18 to 25 demographic and get disaffected voters to stay home that would normally vote for a Democrat, then yeah, we can pull it out. It's all about effective targeting and making sure that we have boots on the ground.
Well, Josh, we're about 50 minutes into this. It's been great fun chatting with you. I've been looking forward to this ever since we first met. And we're going to stay in touch with you during this exciting election year. Um, you're going to continue to be involved, right?
Yeah, I'm still on the Gloucester City Executive Committee. I'm still going to put my head down and build the party, regardless of if people want me to or not. So,
And here's my suggestion to people in charge of the Republican Party in the county or in the state. You better get in touch with this guy and involve him because he is the future and he's part of the passion and the energy that you need in the party right now.
thank you very much for that, Dan.
It's my pleasure, Josh. And it's been great fun chatting with you tonight. And like I say, this is going to go on my YouTube channel. It will be at dancerucci.com. I will put it there tonight. And I will also feature it. In other words, I will have it right at the top of my Facebook and Twitter pages so that people can watch our chat. It'll remain up there.
All right. Sounds good. I'll make sure I send it to my friends.
Hopefully, get a lot of views. Okay.
I wish you all the success with the podcast, Dan.
Oh, well, we're doing the best we can. What can I tell you, Josh? I'm plodding along here, you know?
It's a saturated market.
It's great. It's great chatting with you. Have a good evening.
You too. Have a good night.
Good night.